Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bedtime Stories. My name is Tracy and I am your host. Tonight we're reading chapter 3 of Thuvia, Maid of Mars. This is the fourth book in the John Carter of Mars series by Edgar Rice Burroughs. These were originally published way back in the 19-teens, and so they're firmly within the public domain. So before I get started on this chapter, I need to ask you a series of very serious queries. Have you gone pee in the potty yet? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you got your water next to the bed? Have you done your stretches? You got all that done already? Great job. Wonderful work. You might be wondering why my face is a little bit different. I had an acting gig tonight. I killed it. It was amazing. Actually, I was killed, but it was also amazing. So I killed at being killed. I ate and left no crumbs, as the kids are wont to say these days. So, I mean, there were notes that I'm giving to myself because I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my performances, but nobody else had any notes for me other than great job. So, anyway, so as I was saying, chapter 3 is entitled Treachery. And since we have nothing else left to do other than like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell. I mean, I may as well throw it out there. Someday you're going to do it, and you're going to subscribe. I don't know. One of these days. Some of y'all ain't subscribed. You'll subscribe. You'll want to know when the next video is going to drop. I believe it with every fiber. You just got to find me. You'll find me. Chapter 3, Treachery. Let us begin. The day following the coming of Vascor to the palace of the Prince of Helium, great excitement reigned throughout the Twin Cities, reaching its climax in the palace of Cathoris. Word had come of the abduction of Thuvia of Petarth from her father's court, and with it the veiled hint that the Prince of Helium might be suspected of considerable knowledge of the act and whereabouts of the princess. In the council chamber of John Carter, warlord of Mars, was Hardos Mors, Jadak of Helium, Mors Kajak, his son, Jed of Lesser Helium, Cathoris, and a score of the great nobles of the empire. Oh my goodness, that was a belch. I do apologize. I hope you were not able to hear that at any point as it rumbled forth from my innards. Whoo-wee. Anyway. There must be no war between Petarth and Helium, my son, said John Carter. That you are innocent of the charge that has been placed against you by insinuation, we well know, but Thuvendin must know it well too. There is but one who may convince him, and that one be you. You must hasten at once to the court of Petarth, and by your presence there, as well as by your words, assure him that his suspicions are groundless. Bear with you the authority of the warlord of Barsoom, and of the Jadak of Helium to offer every resource of the allied powers to assist Thuvendin to recover his daughter and punish her abductors, whomsoever they may be. Go, I know that I do not need to urge upon you the necessity for haste. Cathoris left the council chamber and hastened to his palace. Here slaves were busy in a moment, setting things to rights for the departure of their master. Several worked about the swift flyer that would bear the Prince of Helium rapidly toward Petarth. At last all was done, but 2 armed slaves remained on guard. The setting sun hung low above the horizon. In a moment, darkness would envelop all. One of the guardsmen, a giant of a fellow, across whose right cheek there ran a thin scar from temple to mouth, approached his companion. His gaze was directed beyond and above his companion. When he had come quite close, he spoke. What strange craft is that? He asked. The other turned about quickly to gaze heavenward. Scarce was his back turned toward the giant than the short sword of the latter was plunged beneath his left shoulder blade, straight through the heart. Voiceless, the soldier sank in his tracks, stone dead. Quickly the murderer dragged the corpse into the black shadows within the hangar. Then he returned to the flyer. Drawing a cunningly wrought key from his pocket pouch, he removed the cover of the right-hand dial of the controlling destination compass. For a moment he studied the construction of the mechanism beneath. Then he returned the dial to its place, set the pointer, and removed it again to note the resultant change in the position of the parts affected by the act. A smile crossed his lips. With a pair of cutters, he snipped off the projection which extended through the dial from the external pointer. Now the latter might be moved at any point upon the dial without affecting the mechanism below. In other words, the Eastern Hemisphere dial was useless. Now he turned his attention to the Western dial. This he set upon a certain point. Afterward, he removed the cover of this dial also, and with a keen tool cut the steel finger from the underside of the pointer. As quickly as possible, he replaced the second dial cover and resumed his place on guard. To all intents and purposes, the compass was as efficient as before, but as a matter of fact, the moving of the pointers upon the dials resulted now in no corresponding shift of the mechanism beneath, and the device was set immovably upon a destination of the slave's own choosing. Presently came Cathoras, accompanied by but a handful of his gentlemen. He cast but a casual glance upon the single slave who stood guard. The fellow's thin, cruel lips and the sword cut that ran from temple to mouth aroused the suggestion of an unpleasant memory within him. He wondered where Saran Tal had found the man. Then the matter faded from his thoughts, and in another moment the Prince of Helium was laughing and chatting with his companions, though below the surface his heart was cold with dread. For what contingencies confronted Thuvia of Petarth he could not even guess. First to his mind, naturally, it sprung the thought that Astok of Dusar had stolen the fair Petarthian. But almost simultaneously with the report of the abduction had come news of the great fêtes at Dusar in honor of the return of the Jedek's son to the court of his father. It could not have been he, thought Cathoras, for on the very night that Thuvia was taken, Astok had been in Dusar, and yet... He entered the flyer, exchanging casual remarks with his companions as he unlocked the mechanism of the compass and set the pointer upon the capital city of Petarth. With a word of farewell, he touched the button, which controlled the repulsive rays, and as the flyer rose lightly into the air, the engine purred in answer to the touch of his finger upon a second button. The propellers whirred as his hand drew back the speed lever, and Cathoras, Prince of Helium, was off into the gorgeous Martian night beneath the hurtling moons and the million stars. Scarce had the flyer found its speed ere the man, wrapping his sleeping silks and furs about him, stretched at full length upon the narrow deck to sleep. But sleep did not come at once to his bidding. Instead, his thoughts ran riot in his brain, driving sleep away. He recalled the words of Thuvia of Petarth, words that had half assured him that she loved him. For when he had asked her if she loved Kulan Tith, she had answered only that she was promised to him. Now he saw that her reply was open to more than a single construction. It might, of course, mean that she did not love Kulan Tith, and so by inference be taken to mean that she loved another. But what assurance was there that the other was Cathoras of Helium? The more he thought about it, the more positive he became that not only was there no assurance in her words that she loved him, but none either in any act of hers. No, the fact was, she did not love him. She loved another. She had not been abducted. She had fled willingly with her lover. I got it. I'm going to change the angle just a tiny bit. Oh, goodness. Look down on me, I guess. And it kind of cracks me up that it says, hard things stay weird. Because they do they not? Okay, anyway. She had fled willingly with her lover. With such pleasant thoughts filling him alternately with despair and rage, Cathoras at last dropped into the sleep of utter mental exhaustion. The breaking of the sudden dawn found him still asleep. His flyer was rushing swiftly above a barren ochre plain, the world-old bottom of a long-dead Martian sea. In the distance rose low hills. Toward these the craft was headed. As it approached them, a great promontory might have been seen from its deck, stretching out into what had once been a mighty ocean, and circling back once more to enclose the forgotten harbor of a forgotten city, which still stretched back from its deserted quays, an imposing pile of wondrous architecture of a long dead past. The countless dismal windows, vacant and forlorn, stared sightless from their marble walls, the whole sad city taking on the semblance of scattered mounds of dead men's sun-bleached skulls, the casements having the appearance of eyeless sockets, the portals grinning jaws. Closer came the flyer, but now its speed was diminishing, yet this was not Patarth. Above the central plaza it stopped, slowly settling Marsward. Within 100 yards of the ground it came to rest, floating gently in the light air, and at the same instant an alarm sounded at the sleeper's ear. Cthulhu sprang to his feet. Below him he looked to see the teeming metropolis of Patarth. Beside him already there should have been an air patrol. He gazed about in bewildered astonishment. There indeed was a great city, but it was not Patarth. No multitudes surged through its broad avenues, no signs of life broke the dead monotony of its deserted rooftops. No gorgeous silks, no priceless furs lent life and color to the cold marble and the gleaming ursite. No patrol boat lay ready with its familiar challenge. Silent and empty lay the great city, empty and silent the surrounding air. What had happened? Cthulhu examined the dial of his compass. The pointer was set upon Patarth. Could the creature of his genius have thus betrayed him? He would not believe it. Quickly he unlocked the cover, turning it back upon its hinge. A single glance showed him the truth, or at least a part of it. The steel projection that communicated the movement of the pointer upon the dial to the heart of the mechanism beneath had been severed. Who could have done the thing, and why? Cthulhu could not hazard even a faint guess, but the thing now was to learn in what portion of the world he was, and then take up his interrupted journey once more. If it had been the purpose of some enemy to delay him, he had succeeded well, thought Cthulhu, as he unlocked the cover of the second dial, the first having shown that its pointer had not been set at all. Beneath the second dial he found the steel pin severed as in the other, but the controlling mechanism had first been set for a point upon the western hemisphere. He had just time to judge his location roughly at the same place southwest of Helium, and at a considerable distance from the Twin Cities, when he was startled by a woman's scream beneath him. Leaning over the side of the flyer, he saw what appeared to be a red woman being dragged across the plaza by a huge green warrior, one of those fierce, cruel denizens of the dead sea bottoms and deserted cities of dying Mars. Cthulhu waited to see no more. Reaching for the control board, he sent his craft racing plummet-like toward the ground. The green man was hurrying his captive toward a huge thoat that browsed upon the ochre vegetation of the once scarlet, gorgeous plaza. At the same instant, a dozen red warriors leapt from the entrance of a nearby Ursite palace, pursuing the abductor with naked swords and shouts of rageful warning. Once the woman turned her face upward toward the falling flyer, and in the single swift glance, Cthulhu saw that it was Thuvia of Patarth. And that's the end of chapter 3. What did you think? I'm really digging how Edgar has, I am calling him by his first name, the author, Mr. Edgar Rice Burroughs, has improved dramatically in his descriptions. Like, some of those descriptions were, ooh, primo. Didn't you think? Tell me in the comments if you're still awake. And if you're still awake, why aren't you sleeping yet? I love you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And if they do, make sure you bite them back. Gnaw off their little heads. For God's sake. Golly gosh. You deserve to be defended. Anyway, I love you. Good night.